were in this auditorium with us for Island Music Conference. Another power panel, this time we're looking at So You Want a Record Deal. And if you want a record deal, there are a number of persons who can talk to you about that. We have Steve Greenberg from S-Curve. Where's you, Steve? Where's you? Put your hands together for Steve Greenberg.
Just so you know, if anybody don't know, Steve, say hi to everybody, please. Turn around. Steve, yes. This guy is the guy that gave you that song, Who Let the Dogs Out. Y'all know that? He's also the guy that gave you that song, Mbop, Mbop. Remember that song with the Hansons? He signed Hanson. He signed the Jonas Brothers also. All right? And he did the Banana song with me the other day that went 2 billion streams during COVID. And we currently are working together on this new song, When She's Around, with Bruce Melody from Rwanda. So this is Steve Greenberg, everybody, and he's an avid reggae connoisseur. There you go. Next one, Julio.
I'm Shaggy Jarrett, so we're mixing up his flow because he has stuff that he want to play behind everybody. So when you call their names, you got to give him time because he's got a little thing.
Oh, you having something to say after this? Oh no. Everybody know JR? Okay, all right. So this one is JR, right? You know, Mr. Watkins himself. And that's your music?
Are we talking about money?
Or if you come out and come up on a Shaggy music?
I have two.
You see it.
Play a Shaggy song. Play a Shaggy song.
That's JR. You know, anything about analytics and music and money, I've never met anyone more enthusiastic about the business side of music than this guy, and technology and analytics and sales and marketing than this guy. He's one of our own from Jamaica, but one of the most knowledgeable people. Feel free to walk up to him and ask him anything you need to know about streaming, the analytics of music and Jamaican music and where it is. And J.R. Watkins himself, please give him a round of applause. And who else? David
Maledo.
David
Maledo from United Master.
United Master. David is really Spice new boss from United Masters. She put out an album with them recently at United Masters, and David is here to represent United Masters. People, and this don't need an introduction. One of the most talented out of Jamaica right now. Masicka. I had the pleasure of doing a couple of sessions with Masicka recently, and I easily say I was blown away by his humility, his work ethic. I'm afraid to set up why we had this studio session and the man showed up before me, so not really hard, but he was there before me, and for the 2.5 days we were there, created some incredible music, and I was just blown away. And again, I gotta applaud you. He was not scared to step outside of his comfort zone and try things that if been a little bit out of. But at the end of the day, I was really happy with it. Make some noise for Masicka, everybody.
Yeah, man. Bless up everybody.
Now, JR is gonna do it, and this will be as when y'all say, so you wanna. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we need here.
So everybody might want to be on a label, and these guys are gonna talk about whether or not you should be on a label compared to being independent right now. And JR, I can't think of it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks,
Please be seated.
Good evening, everybody. So we were supposed to come out to music and you dance with us and all of that, but Shaggy took our show. Again, big up Shaggy for this wonderful conference. And I know we all been having a good time. And this panel is really to inform you on the ins and outs of record labels, what's good, what's bad, what works, what doesn't work. We have Steve Greenberg.
Hey.
David Maledo.
What's everybody doing?
our very own Masicka.
Check, check.
And I just want them to talk a little bit about themselves before I ask questions. So Steve?
Hi, yeah, I've been in the record business for about 35 years now. And I've spent the first part of my career at major record labels and was head of A&R of a big record label, Mercury Records, and that's where I did Hanson's Umbop. But probably the turning point in my career and the story that's maybe most relevant in my story to this panel is how I started my own label, S-Curve, 24 years ago. And it happened completely by accident because what happened was I was going to do a label deal with London Records, which was part of the Warner Music Group. And they were all excited to do this deal with me. I just had some big hits. And the deal was pretty much signed, but I hadn't actually signed it yet. And they even gave me an office in their offices and everything. And I came in the first day and I said, well, here's the first record I'm gonna put out on my new label with you guys. And I played them Who Let the Dogs Out. And they laughed at me. And they said, oh, this is the stupidest record we've ever heard. This is not a hit. You can't get anywhere with this record. And I was so deflated because I had produced the record in my friend's living room and even barked on it, by the way, which is my dirty secret. That's me barking. And I really believed that the record was a big hit. But they told me that, no, this record's not a hit, just forget about it. And they're like, we love you, Steve, you're so good. The next record you find is gonna be a hit, don't worry about it, but just forget about this record. And I had a big choice to make in my life. Do I sign the contract and forget about the record? Or do I go with my heart and believe in the music and forget about the Warner Music Group? And I actually started my label, S-Curve Records, 24 years ago, for the sole purpose of putting out Who Let the Dogs Out. That was the only reason the record label existed. I never thought that it would last for 24 years. I never thought we'd have lots of other big hits, but we've had a great run. We did all the big hits by Joss Stone, and we did Fountains of Wayne, Stacy's Mom, and we did AJR and Andy Grammer and Hanson, and we did 2 records with Duran Duran and 3 records with Tom Jones. Like, we did a lot of great stuff over the years, and we still are doing it, including the current record that we have with Shaggy and Bruce Melody. Bruce Melody's, by the way, the biggest recording artist in East Africa, and it's an Afrobeat record called When She's Around, and it's a great record, and Shaggy is amazing on it. So we're excited about that. But by the way, just to sort of like go back to the origin story about Who Let the Dogs Out in the label, I will say that in the end, within 8 months, we had sold 4 million albums, and I won a Grammy for producing the record. So it was the right decision to forget about the Warner Music Group and start my own label. So the moral is, go with your heart and go with the music.
David. Yep. My name is David Mojito. Started in the industry probably 20 years ago. Started off as an artist manager for an artist from the Virgin Islands named Verse Simmons. And then I went on to produce for a producer named...
We know Verse Simmons.
Then managed a producer named Sham Sakpase, who produced for Rihanna, J-Lo, and a number of other artists as well. So I really was forced into entrepreneurship because when I first got out of college, I couldn't find a job. It was the middle of a recession. So I really was just taking the skills that I learned in college to apply to help my artists, and that's where I learned the business, just by trial and error. After managing Verse and Sham, I moved on to help launch a distribution company in Atlanta called Streamcut, where I partnered with Gunna, worked closely with Lotto and a number of other artists out of Atlanta. Spent some time at Rock Nation, so I got a chance to learn the insides of a major label or independent major, working with artists like Buju for a period of time, then Rhapsody. And then 4.5 years ago, I went to United Masters, where been able to help build and empower artists at every phase of their journey. Had the privilege of working with Spice, privilege of working with Brent Faiyaz, and a number of amazing independent talent. But happy to be here and be able to share some wisdom with you all.
Yeah. And Masicka, your angle, why you take it a little different. Just tell us briefly how you got into the business, and just tell us any other thing we don't know about you.
Well, you don't know me, I'm Masicka, aka Javan Ferran. Well, I've been doing music from high school. You know what I mean? Calabar High School, way back. You know what I mean? And then a friend of mine actually in the crowd now, you know, introduced me to Kaba. You know, that was Like my manager back then, you know what I mean? But you know, everybody young and we just try to pursue the dream and stuff like that. But then we left Calabar High School, we went to UTech. Because I did still want to become a lawyer at one point in my life, you know what I mean? So anyway, I go UTech, I'm gonna do UTech for like 1 year. I'm just decide say school is not for me, you know what I mean? Not saying school is a bad thing, but just the fire inside and want to pursue the music and you know what I mean? And then, you know, it ended up happening, link up with like Dan Carleone, TG Records, you know what I mean, from like around age 19. First time I went to Europe, probably like, yeah, same 19, you know what I mean, but we never have no song them time there, you know what I mean, so eventually, you know, with work and consistency, end up manifesting, you know what I mean, yeah man, definitely.
All right, so Steve, there are like 1,000 artists in Jamaica. They have no labels, independent, but probably 30% of them are really talented. What's the value proposition from a label to an artist that is considering that label situation?
I think it's changed in the last couple of years since TikTok became such a crucial part of the business and social media became such an important indicator of success in the business and an important sort of signal to all the other aspects of the business that this is, you know, anything success on TikTok and Instagram sort of is suggesting to other gatekeepers in the industry, like this is something to pay attention to, this is something to put on Spotify playlists, this is something to put on the radio, whatever. So since that happened, I kind of feel like the value of a record label, if you don't have any fans yet, if you don't have any traction at all in a scene somewhere or on social media somewhere, I don't think a label can do that job anymore of getting you from zero to something. I kind of feel like that used to be the job of a record label, that some talented person would walk in the door and they had no fans, but they were so amazing and so talented and charismatic, and you'd sign them and then you'd figure out how to get them the fans. I don't think a record label at the moment has that ability. I think once you've gotten somewhere, once you've gotten a toehold somewhere, whether it's in a, like I said, in a local scene, in a genre scene, on social media, somewhere, you know, then a label can take that success and amplify it and make you even much bigger than you might have been able to do on your own. But I actually don't think that it's a good idea to sign to a record label until you've created something of your own. And I think both the labels know it and the artists know it at this point.
Is it possible, and you've worked with both the label and independent, pushing independent artists with United Masters, is it possible for an artist to sign, do a run with a label, and then have a success, more success independently?
Yeah, absolutely. But see, like I'm not anti-label and I'm not, you know, one way, because I believe that it's not one size fits all for artists. Some artists are more entrepreneurial, and those are the artists that can do it. They can build a team around them to be successful. Some labels, for artists that might be trying to find their creative vision, might be trying to figure out, they need that A&R support, they need that marketing support, they might not be savvy on social media. That's where, you know, a label might be able to come in and support them. But the biggest thing is leverage, right? You used to be able to bubble up in the streets and consider yourself an unsigned artist 10, 15 years ago, right? And you had to bubble up, hope for an A&R to come around to your town, to find you and then sign you and then put you in the studio and then market your album. But now you can do the same process as an independent artist and stand beside that and build a business around yourself to be successful. So you could then launch other things from that. So from 0 to 60 was what it used to be. You had to bubble up, get to 60, and then the label will come in and take you to 100. But now, as an independent artist, you can go from 0 to 60 and then hire the people because you're making money on a consistent basis to be able to build the rest of your team out to 100.
Yeah. Masicka has the most streamed album, as in Jamaican streams, 438. Give him a round of applause for that. That album was released 2 years ago, and it's still in the top 10 on Apple Music Jamaica. Never been done.
Yeah.
Did you have to use the classic album, and I'm calling it a classic, to leverage to get your record deal, or they just signed you as a brand new artist?
I think the album played a major role in me signing, because from my understanding, from what I learned from the record labels is, most of the time they're looking for a package, not just one song, not just one vibe, you know what I mean? And the thing is, music does sell, same way people don't understand that it's just the quality of the music. You understand? Music sells, people still buy music, people still interested in the music. Fortunately, it sells, like, up to this day, it's still selling, you know what I mean? And the thing is, once alright, with my deal, and with my situation was, yeah, them like the music, them like the content, but where do I see myself going in 5 years' time? You understand? Do you see yourself becoming a superstar? Do you see yourself selling millions of records? You know what I mean? Because if it's not that, then it don't make no sense. You understand? So it was basically like that.
Why did you need a label?
I felt like I have done everything I could throughout the Caribbean. Like, I've been to most of the countries, like 6, 7, 8 times, and it's for me it's more structure, not money, you know what I mean, and growth. So with the record label now, you can reach, alright, doing it yourself, time consuming, and then you're gonna need the right team, right, you understand what I say? So personally with the record label is, I already had a structure working off, so it wasn't from scratch, you understand? So they come in now, them can say, all right, this is the direction. We have this to spend, this is the type of connections that you need, this is the stuff that you do. Me coming from the Caribbean island, it's very difficult to, you understand what I say, to kind of cross over with the music and without the stuff still. So the record label is good in some sense, and it all depends on the artist's work ethic. So you can't depend on the label to do everything. You understand? You can't depend, because the label, really actually the label don't care. Them have 100 artists where it's just another product, if you understand what I mean, until you prove yourself, you understand? So it's just up to the artists to work hard and show them so them got it done, you know what I mean? Definitely.
So Steve, you run an S-curve. I mean, you want new artists, right? What kind of, what are you looking for? The look, the sound. I'm sure you're looking for reggae. Shaggy say you're tapped into reggae. Deep. So what are you looking for new artists, old artists?
Our philosophy, by the way, is not around any one kind of music. We just put out music that we like and that we think other people will like if we can get them to hear it. That is literally the philosophy of the label. So we've done reggae, we've done other kinds of Caribbean music, but we've also done rock and we've done R&B, we've done everything. So what I'm looking for somebody who has an original sound. We don't like to chase trends at the label. We want somebody who doesn't sound like everybody else, who's original look, original sound, really good work ethic. And now, because of the way the world has evolved, we want somebody who loves to be on social media, wants to be on social media, is excited about sharing their personality and their music and their viewpoint on social media, and are willing to commit to just being on there every day doing it, because we don't have any illusion that somehow we have a magic wand anymore to take an artist who is completely unknown and make them big without the artist doing that work on social media.
David, what do you look for?
Well, I mean, like, our company, we start working with artists earlier in their career. So, like, we have 1.9 million artists that just go to our website and sign up for United Masters to put their music out on DSPs, right? So once they start releasing music, then they start developing some traction, and we'll start to see those signals, and then we'll add more value to them. So we might look to sync their music in a video game or a television commercial. We might try to put them in a brand campaign, maybe put them in a mentorship program with Bullet. Last year we did 100 hours of mentorship, right? So what we're doing is we're starting artists on the artist development process early in their career, so that way when they still start to build traction, then we can bring you over to the tier where we're providing artist services. That's when we're looking for an artist that is great on social media, that has a really great song or really great body of work. They might have some really great meaning or have a really strong movement, a lot of velocity behind every time they put out a piece of content, it's getting reshared, right? Those are some of the signals that will make us pay attention to it. But it really is like when you sit down with an artist, they have to want it more than you want it for them, right? Like, so if an artist really believes in themselves, they're putting the right people around them, they're making smart decisions, that makes me want to work with them even more, because I know when we get to the table, I'm not coming up with all the ideas. I'm not coming up with, yo, this is the song you need to record, right? They're coming with music, and I'm just trying to help bring the best out of them at that point. So it's really about having an artist that understands what they want. You know, there's some artists that you can mold, right, and develop, but largely it's you know, it has to have some purpose behind it.
What were some of the questions you asked the label Masicka? I remember your brother, Justin, said, big him up, said you took a while to negotiate, right? What were some of the questions you posed, that whatever you can talk about, you posed to your label to say, hey, address this?
First and foremost, creativity. I always wanted it to be a case where I kept who I was, you know what I mean, that integrity, not changing my sound and stuff like that. I'm not objective to learning, you know what I mean, but that was a main concern, the direction of the music. And next thing was the possible chance of leaving if everyone wasn't comfortable, because you can be locked up in these deals, you know what I mean. So I had the contract for like 1.5 years, to be honest. I had the contract for like 1.5 years. Me and my lawyers, me and my team went through it, but they were so adamant that, you know what I mean, they want to sign me. Big up Tunji, really good person. So those were some of the questions that I mean, if I can leave the deal after the number of albums, how the publishing split and stuff like that, you know what I mean, my socials, I want to still control my socials and stuff like that with, and I don't have no problem with them overseeing it, but just the identity remaining who I am with, you know, expressing the music the same way is just the thing that I was mostly concerned with. The creative control, you know what I mean, I'm willing to learn, willing to listen, you see, but I just want the music have a certain structure and I don't need it to change, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Steve, you having worked with record labels, a lot of Jamaican artists, they get signed, have a run, and then they leave the label situation. What usually causes that to get sour? Is it a lack of record sales, or what have you seen?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lack of record sales in 99% of the cases. Remember the classic record deal that artists sign with major labels, and there's all kinds of new kinds of deals that exist now. But if you're talking about major record labels, generally what happens is you commit to a label for a certain number of albums, but the label really is only committing to you usually for one album with an option for further albums. Or sometimes they might commit for 2 albums with an option for further albums. But some people come to me and go, oh, I just got a 5-album deal with, you know, Atlantic Records or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, it's 5 albums if it goes well. You know, if it doesn't go well, it might be 1 album, right? So I think what happens is, because of the nature of major label record deals, they could end at any time that the label decides the game is over and that they're no longer interested in investing. And that's definitely one of the pitfalls of signing a record deal with a major record label, is that you're really getting to this thing where they control your recorded career as long as they want to, but you don't get to stay on their label and receive their resources as long as you want to.
Yeah. United Masters, you had Spice for her last album. How do you market reggae dancehall? From you get the songs or you get the artists, how do you market that?
Well, I think it really starts with the artists and their vision, right? We're a distribution company, so we're supporting the things that the artist comes to the table with, right? So, you know, we have great relationships with the DSPs, Spotify, YouTube, Apple. We can get playlisting, right? But the strategy behind it has to kind of start with the artist. And luckily we worked with Spice, and she had a vision, right? She had an idea when she wanted to release her music. She had all her content already made, right? So all we had to do was help amplify it as much as we could, right? Put her in places that we maybe not have been able to do by ourselves, but you know, like, that's how we support every artist, whether it's a Jamaican artist, whether it's a Nigerian artist, where we just launched in Nigeria this past year, We understand that we're not on the ground, wasn't on the ground there, but we partnered with SARS. So SARS, a global producer, and we invested in his business, and now he's got a song with Gunna and Ashake with over 40 million streams in 2 months, right? Like, so we're really just trying to add value to a lot of these artists' careers in the ways that they want us to sit at the table with them. We're not coming in taking control. We're not saying like, yo, you have to release on this release date, right? If you come to the table and have a plan, then we'll support you.
I'm gonna throw out for some questions. Mics. So.
Good afternoon, everyone. So there's a recent trend that I'm seeing in the industry. There are several artists who are buying or owning their masters, and there are several legendary artists who are selling their masters.
I don't want to cut you.
You want me to stand?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And everybody, when you're making answer on the thing, please stand and say the name I want it from. This is our way network. So
That's
people
fine.
know. Please.
Shane
stand.
Bennett from O Access Jamaica. All right, so there is a recent trend in the industry where artists are, whether you are already in a record label situation or you're leaving a record label situation, or the contract has gone sour, where they are purchasing or owning their masters, or you have legendary artists or artists who have passed on, where their families are now putting their masters to companies. I want you, from your viewpoint, to tell people, artists who are looking to go into the industry, what is the best thing for them now? Do they, at the front of the conversation, ask to own the masters, or should there be some sort of collaboration situation? That is how.
Steve,
I can jump in first. Giving away the ownership of your masters shouldn't be the prerequisite for you to be able to have opportunity, right? So when you're thinking about your art, if you was going to a bank to get a loan, you don't have to give them ownership of your art in order to get that loan, right? So think about that first from a major label perspective. What you see with a lot of artists now that they own their masters, they control the rights, their families, they own their masters, they can now have the ability to leverage it, right? So that they can go get a big payday or go get a cash out if they want to, if that's what they want for their legacy. But if they give it to a major label, the major label cashes out and sells it, right? Like up against Wall Street or major private investors, right? Like, so it's really about, you know, if you are able to go into a deal and have leverage, so that way, even if you do give some of your rights away, that you have some sort of reversion period where you're gonna get back some of those rights, right? Don't give it away forever, right? You can give it away until they recoup. Maybe after they recoup, your percentage change, right? There's ways that you can be creative in the deals. It doesn't have to be, when I got into business, everybody used to say this is a standard deal, right? And that used to piss me off so much because it was like, well, what is standard, right? No one could tell you, right? So you should go in there and think about what you want your standard to be. And that's how every artist should go into it. You build the leverage, then you have the ability to be able to negotiate the way that you want to.
Yeah, I think everything that he said is right. And I think it's so important to have ownership of your masters, even if it means that a label might be controlling your masters for a few years. There's got to be a reversion where the records are going to come back to you fairly soon. I don't mean like 20 years from now. I mean, you know, really certainly within 10 years, maybe even less than that. And the reason for that is because, you know, you want the ability to own your masters for the rest of your life, if that's what you want, and maybe give them to your heirs, you know, after the end of your life or whatever. But you also want the ability at some point in your life, if it serves your purposes, to sell your masters yourself after they've actually accrued value, after you've had some hits. In addition to having a record label, I manage a band called AJR, who've had a lot of big hits in the US. And the biggest thing that we've done with all the record deals that we've signed over the years is we've had really short reversions. And within the next couple of years, the band's gonna own all their masters again, even though they've been on all these big record labels over the years. And they understand that that's one of the greatest assets they could ever have materially. And so it's such an important thing, and as the reversion comes closer and closer, you just start to realize how important it is and how life-changing it could be for an artist.
What kind of year?
Yeah, hold on, Jr. Let me just kind of weigh in on this a little bit, right? I know the standard thing is, yes, you should try and own your masters, 100%. Everything is relative. There's some people who have masters that are owned not just by themselves. You might have a record and you've got samples, and one sample that you use on it has 5 writers, and the 5 writers don't like each other. And when you're ready to go to sync, you know, you might be getting a Super Bowl commercial, and then the 5 writers decide they want $5 million each. And then the commercial is just down the alley. It's trash. We end up in these things over and over and over again. And sometimes you have people who are just not business people. They're writers. They'll come in the room and then put on a couple lines, and you say, boy, yeah, you know, Masicka the dead, and my boy put a little line, so you give him 5%. And he goes so. But you have 95% of it, and him see you are going and say, yo, the boy, the rich already, I'm not clear nothing. And he's just fucking up your whole shit over that 5% that you gave him. You know what I'm saying? For what it is. Sometimes, and no matter what kind of conversation you're having with them, they just ain't bright. Some of them are just filled with hate sometimes. They're just here and say you win and then just they were there because they probably wasn't as talented. And that becomes a headache. So if you have a catalog that is filled with a bunch of these people, then you might just want to get rid of the shit. You know what I'm saying? And in what you see a lot of people last year was the big year where they were selling catalogs. There was a reason for that. The interest rate when Donald Trump was in power was at what, 2.7 was the lowest? It was the lowest in my lifetime and in your lifetime. Simply being the multiples at that point for record catalogs were at about 15. In some places, I know people who got 22% on sales of their catalog. And also, the capital gains tax. In Jamaica, you don't have capital gains tax, but in America, the capital gains tax on the Donald Trump was dropped to like 20%. So it simply means your capital gains tax is low, your multiples are high, and the interest rate might low. It's a perfect storm. So a lot of people got rid of their catalogs at that point. Now what happened when you get rid of the catalog? Now you got $30 million, US hard cash. Now you're gonna go to a financial institution. You can go to Morgan Stanley, you can go to wherever you go. And then you can create a portfolio. You might put a little in stocks, a little in real estate, a little in, and then what you're gonna do, you can borrow on it now. You could create a line of credit. And if you got probably $10 million in that, you're now in the friends and family. You're in that unique little position in the bank where they say, hey, he's our preferred customer. And now I'm going to give you a 2% loan, right? Credit line for 5 million, for 10 million, to do and invest whatever the fuck you want to do with it at 2%. It's free money. So this is why a lot of them do it. And with that money now, you could create what is known as new catalog. Now remember the old catalog, you had the record company, say Steve is the record company. He's S-curve, he owns the master, right? So you only got the publishing of those old recordings, because we're thinking back at old recordings. So Steve owns the master, the actual recording, okay? You now only own your portion of the publishing, of the writer's portion, right? So that part now, you're gonna sell. But you can't sell Steve's part. But in today's day and age with streaming, you can own 100% of it. You can write the song, make the beat, own the master. Now, after 5 years, by the way, in case anybody knows, if you have old recordings, you can re-record it like Taylor Swift did. And once you re-record it, you now own this new master. So there's a sync that comes in for Super Bowl, and Steve says, well, I own You Let the Dogs Out, and I'm not giving it because I need $10 million for that sync. You could say, here's my new master, fuck him, I'm giving it to you for 5. That is how it can be done. There's a way to go around it. So everything is relative to how your situation is when you're actually selling masters. It could be a good thing, it could be a reversion can happen also. It's all about how you structure the deal. If you have great lawyers and great people and leverage, you can structure the deal where there's a reversion. You can structure it to a point where you have control of where they put it. If they're sinking it, what they do with it. They still gotta holler at you to get clearance on certain shit. It could be a sunset clause where you still get royalties on it for 5 years or 10 years, and then it reverts. It all depends on how it's done. So everything is relative. It's not as cut as dry as it is. All right? Just wanted to put that point out.
Do you advise, don't leave Shaggy. Do you advise new artists to sign to niche labels or majors?
I think new artists should start by themselves. I don't think any new artist should start with any major. Because the majors have hundreds of artists, and they just look at you as a number. It's a numbers thing. You can sign with a major label depending on relationships. Say you have Steve, for instance. Say Steve is a dude, his track record, and you look at the track record of Steve and say, Steve is a man with doing on the tongue. And the man goes on, Steve go a PBR and meet his mother and really follow him thing and really start connect with Masicka and him vision. Masicka might feel comfortable with Steve because he shares his vision and believe it. So based on the due diligence of that's why as an A&R person, if you're a major person, major label, you're gonna have to really work to win the confidence of the artist. Steve Carles had to win the confidence of TJ, for TJ to not sign with me, who I was bidding against Steve, to go ahead and say, I'm gonna rock with it. Now, thankfully which he didn't have to do, is TJ actually ended up keeping me involved in the deal, which I was surprised after a while, when my lawyer called me and said, he's giving me a percentage of the deal, and he wanted me to still be his executive producer and be a part of it. But he didn't have to.
For the Billboard album.
But yes, for that.
Give it up for Up Top Boss.
He didn't have to do that. But what I'm saying to you is, with TJ, to make that, and of course, big up to Steve Carles, who welcomed me to be a part of it, because he realized that I was a part of his journey. But it depends on that person, how that person wins your trust to go. But for the most part, it's gonna be hard to get somebody to really buy into your vision 100%. So you gotta build it. Once you go with the people that fuck with you just on the streets, on the grounds, on yourself, you're gonna build what is known as equity. So if you got a couple of hits up, that's what Masicka did. They came to him when he was already a running machine in the streets. So he had equity. Based on that equity, he could look at them and say, hey, okay, I'm gonna sign with you for this, but I'm gonna need to have control to put out whatever the fuck I want, when I want, how I want, and I gotta be in control of that. And normally they would probably say no, but because he already did so many things, you know what, let's work with it. So that is what I feel. Starting by yourself to build the equity, but I'm not ruling out signing straight to the majors, depend on who the person you're signing with, and there might be a situation. Steve is a different situation because Steve owns his own record company. You might sign with an executive at a record company. Say you sign with somebody who's an executive at Sony. And then you sign with a guy, you're getting ready to go, he's into your project, you and him build it, and then they fire him. And then somebody else come in and he don't give a shit about you, and you're stuck in that deal. That's what happened with Steve with Jonas Brothers. He built theirs. You tell that story.
Yeah, I signed the Jonas Brothers to Columbia Records when I was president of Columbia and produced the first album. And I got fired eventually, as many people do in this business. And when I got fired, the label decided that they just didn't see any potential in the Jonas Brothers, and they dropped them and gave them back the record on top of dropping them. And most of the songs on that first record that we made at Columbia actually formed the core of the first Jonas Brothers album on Hollywood Records, where they blew up. So So yeah, very often the fate of an artist is tied to the executive who's associated with that artist at the label, and if the executive leaves, it's curtains for the artist at the label. Now, luckily, in the Jonas Brothers story, the story had a very happy ending for the Jonas Brothers because they went on to become superstars. So I'm so happy that my getting blown out of Columbia didn't hurt their career.
All right. We're gonna take some more questions. Just say your name.
Good afternoon, my name is Ronelle, and this question is directed to David. I was actually at the It's Your Time conference in Charlotte last month, so this is my second time hearing you speak. My question is, Masicka mentioned the structure that he gets as a benefit to having a record deal. I know that as a distribution company, United Masters does provide some support, but how do you think that level of support compares to being an actual signed artist?
Yeah. Well, so if you sign to a major label, and I don't know Masicka's deal, but what I would imagine, he probably has a product manager, right? Then he has a team that's doing digital marketing, A&R, of course, the person who signed him. Then there's people who are talking to all the DSPs, right? So over the last 2 years, we took the same approach and said, how do we build the same kind of level of service? So we went after people who worked at major labels, but wanted to be able to be empowered and be able to support independent music. So we built out a digital team, digital marketing, so artists can come get digital marketing. Everything has to have social campaigns now, right? Whether you're running digital PR or you're running paid ads on your music, it's like almost a prerequisite when you release music or when you're trying to develop an artist. We can do that in-house. Marketing strategy, so you have a product manager that's managing the whole thing. So think about, you have a GM, you have your external manager that works with you day to day. You also have an internal manager at the company, right? That is assigned to your project and you're a part of their portfolio. Then you have the commerce team that's going out to the DSPs. And you have an A&R who can go out there and do all the admin stuff for you. Because just because you got a feature, it doesn't mean that you can just put it out. You gotta go get label waiver, you gotta get clearances, maybe if there's a sample in the songs, right? You have to negotiate those rates on your behalf. Right, so all those things we built in-house now, right? So we feel we are competitive with a major label, and we're showing that because we're able to go out and do partnerships with artists like Brent Faiyaz, right? We're able to go partner in Africa with a producer named SARS. We're able to develop artists from the ground up named Big X The Plug and Ecstasy and Anisi out of Atlanta. So like we're starting to build the infrastructure to be able to support artists. And the only difference between United Masters, or the biggest difference is that we're just licensing the music, right? So just imagine you can get the same level of support without having to give up ownership.
Well, before I get to the next question, what role is technology playing in all this artist signing and marketing and promoting? Like, what emphasis, you first, Steve, what emphasis do you place on AI, for example, in helping you to find artists, break them, keep them, market them?
You know, we're not really using AI in an active way at the moment. We had one of our artists did a music video that was animated by AI, and that was kind of interesting. We had another artist who did a single cover art that was done by AI, and again, that was kind of interesting. But we don't look at it actually as so necessarily central to what we're doing now. I understand that it's going to become much more important, but we're just not really doing much with it at the moment. I will say that one of our artists, who I will not name, who's a very successful artist, was going on tour and wanted to print t-shirts with the most appealing slogans that represented this artist's identity and music. And he went into Pi, which is kind of like, you know, like ChatGPT, but it's a different one. He went into Pi and said, can you come up with 100 slogans that represent me and my music and my identity based on everything that you know about me? And the AI did come up with a whole bunch of slogans. He used what he thought were the best ones, and he claims that on his most recent tour, the sales of his merch actually went up 400%. So he said, wow, that's it. Like, the AI knows way better than I do what should be on a t-shirt that my fans might want to buy.
Even deeper than that, what I'm getting to is, like, an artist like Shaggy, he has a legacy brand. And I saw, there's this company called Primary Wave. They own Whitney Houston, I believe. And they have Whitney Houston on tour. going all over the place. Is that something that labels think about for future of artists now?
I don't understand the
On
question.
tour like what? You mean
Like
her
Whitney's on
merch?
tour. No,
Well,
Whitney
Yeah,
is
well,
on tour.
I saw that in Vegas. They had a Whitney Houston show.
Yeah.
But it was the
With
same-
hologram and all
It
that.
was the hologram.
So image and likeness.
Image and likeness. So they probably licensed her image and licensed her estate did, and they actually continue to make money with it that way, and they sell merch and everything. It's the same thing there. She's standing there just like they're seeing you, and she's talking to you and say, hey, great day outside, it's so sunny, whatever it is, and then sing her songs, and everybody sing along like it's a regular concert, and they go ahead and buy merch and all of that. So that still is also, but the family might have licensed her image and likeness and all of that. Maybe Whitney also owns her catalog. I mean, who knows? You know what I mean?
No, Whitney didn't write none of those songs.
Yeah,
Hey,
so,
but I do want to say, like, it's important to use the latest cutting edge technology and whatever the
Yep.
shiny new thing at the moment is, and that's important, and you should know what's going on, and you should be right on top of it and be at the leading edge of it. But really having success in the music business is using a combination of technologies, and that technology ranges from maybe AI to social media to streaming to radio to print journalism to television. You know, some of these technologies are 100 years old or more. Some of them just got invented last year. And it's really figuring out the right combination of all those technologies to push your career forward. Because all those things that I mentioned, you know, radio and press and, you know, live touring and all that stuff, all those things will make you way bigger than you would be if you just basically were a kid being on TikTok all day. A kid being on TikTok all day is going to get you that foothold and enable all these other things to happen for you. But if you don't take advantage of all those other things, you actually might be stuck being somebody who's just a TikTok artist, and that's interesting, but it's not as great as being a full-rounded artist.
Yeah. More questions? Should I give some?
we're done. They're telling us we're out of time.
Not even one more?
You can squeeze in one.
One more. No, you got already. I'll get somebody else. Where?
Check. Yeah, man.
Yes,
Yes,
fire.
greetings. Good evening.
Yeah.
Tell us the name.
The name is Rastakura, and I'm a poet, a dub poet, you know. You know, first I want to say big respect to Shaggy and everyone who organized this thing because very informative, you know. The question is, what happens when an artist or a producer make over a rhythm and use it, you know? Yeah, what is it, the legal consequences and that follow when one make over a rhythm or make over a song? Some popular song from back in the days, someone just make it over.
Your answer?
Yeah, well, that's called an interpolation. See, if you didn't sample any of the original recording, right, it is not as, that's it, I think we're running out of time, sorry. But if you didn't sample any of the original recording, then it's an interpolation. Now, in an interpolation, you still might have, if you change any part of the song itself, change a melody, change a new lyrics, or whatever it is, you're now gonna have to clear the publishing, which is the writer's portion of it, right? Not the master, because it's a new master now that you lick over. But if it's a new song on top of the rhythm, right? At that point, you're gonna have to clear the master, not the master, the publishing, the writer's portion of it. And they, even though it's just a rhythm, they might decide that they might want to take 100%, including the new lyrics when you write. I said they might own 100% of your new recording based on that. So you have that risk also. But that's as far as clearing it, then you'll have to pretty much put it through your attorneys, or if you have somebody who can do clearance, through their publishers, and their publishers, whoever is publishing that particular original recording, and they will go and basically clear it for you, or they can also refuse you, right? But if they clear it, they might tell you to pay a fee, maybe the fee is $1,000, whatever it is, and you clear it, and that now is the process. No, what you can do, if you cover it straight, don't change. Say you do over the song, brand new recording, but you don't change a word, you sing it word for word. That's now called a cover. Now what a cover is good at is, say you cover Flowers from Miley Cyrus, big song, and you sing it over word for word on a new reggae beat or whatever it is, and you put it up. Every time they search for Miley Cyrus, big #1 song, yours is right under there. So that's why people like Conqueror make a shit.
Shaggy giving you secrets, by the way.
It is a secret, so you should know.
World music views secrets.
You should know. People like Conqueror has made quite a great living of just doing covers. You know, you look at UB40 sold Promises and Lies of 17 million albums, which is over a diamond album right there, based on doing a bunch of cover songs. So there's nothing really wrong with that. It's actually a smart way of doing it. The more covers you do, and it blows you up easy because the algorithms actually, you know, will put you into the matrix of it, and you will actually get by. So it is actually a cheat code. I shared the knowledge there with you. I won't answer the question.
Big up Shaggy. Give it up for Steve, David, and Masicka, Billboard chart-topping artists. And what we got out of this is that you have to build leverage, build it up in your own city, build it up in Jamaica. Jamaica is a buzz country. It's a place where people come for buzz tune. It's a whole island. And probably the only place you can come and bust a song and it just busts worldwide after that. So build it up in your own country before you go and seek a record label. My name is Gerald Watkins. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. Everyone, this brings us to the end of our day. But before you leave, you're going to want to fill out the survey on the screen. Now look, this is an important one. There's merch for you outside, but you only get the merchandise for free if you fill out the survey. So if you have filled out the survey already, show them your confirmation and you can get a merch bag. If you have not filled out the survey, unfortunately we will not give you a merch bag. The merch has some really nice IMC merch in it. This has been the Island Music Conference powered by YouTube Last Day 2024. Thank you all for being here. Make sure that you have filled out the survey. Grab your merch bag on the way out. If you can't scan the survey here, there is also copies of the survey QR code outside. There'll be some young ladies with the survey QR code outside. Big up yourself, Jamaica. My name is Adam McFarland. We appreciate you.
Big up in the people, you know what, guys? That is it. Yeah, man, big up people.